not least the two young lads themselves. We will show how the law is being abused, how people driven by hateful ideologies attempt to intimidate and silence anyone who dares to challenge the so-called progressive, so-called liberal narrative. We will show the foolishness of our fear-driven political leaders who jumped on a story, took a side without knowing the truth. Or worse still, knowing it but hiding it, because the truth didn't fit their narrative, regardless of the human cost. And we'll ask three important questions. Firstly, is the media accountable to anyone, in any way, for what they report? Years after the Leveson inquiry, has anything changed, or do they continue to act with impunity? Secondly, is our legal system still fit for purpose? We will show how lawyers who hate Britain but love jihadi warriors have weaponised the law system against us, and how the legal system really only works for the rich. And finally, how do we keep our politicians accountable? If the police, the courts and the state can silence anyone for speaking inconvenient truths, truths that may raise questions about government policy, is the UK any different from China, Russia or Iran in their treatment of dissidents? And of course, for Piers Morgan, for Jeremy Vine, for the BBC, ITV and Channel 4, it's a tutorial on journalism. Keep watching it, you'll learn a lot. Our story appears to start and end in a brief playground incident at Almondbury Community School in Huddersfield. A playground scuffle. One boy poured a bottle of water on another child. The school dealt with it, and that should have been that. 3 weeks later, however, a video clip of the incident surfaced, and within hours, with the help of lawyers and the ignorant rantings of ITV's Piers Morgan and the BBC's Jeremy Vine, it was made into a global news event. And the lives of so many people were turned upside down. Such playground incidents happen every day. So why was this spat between two boys transformed into global news? Well, one of the boys was white and the other a Syrian refugee. At which point the truth of the matter was buried beneath an avalanche of agendas and opportunism. Within hours, the Race Hate Brigade was sharpening their blades.
Clearly, when somebody comes from Syria, fleeing Assad's regime, coming to a place like this, when they get treated that way, that's an issue, and the whole world is looking at us.
Where are we? We're in Almondbury. Do I say the scene of the incident? Is it a scene in it's the incident? It's the scene of the great lie. I call it the great lie because this lie was pushed around the globe. Yeah? This here is the school where the world was told a Syrian refugee was waterboarded by a racist English bully. It was in a playing field here, and do you know what? This is the first time I've been here. Because when this blew up on the news, it's a child's school. Kids are in school. I didn't come outside here. You'd see the scenes outside here where the imam was here with mobs of men, yeah? Mobs of Muslim men. Extremists travelled up from London, such as Ali Dawah, to cause a scene outside this kids' school. Anyway, but I'm here. Why am I here? I'm here because I face a court case. I'm being prosecuted. It's gone to the High Court, and I have to prove. I made a video stating that it was a lie, stating that Jamal wasn't innocent, and telling some facts about Jamal beating up girls, an instance that I'd been warned about by the members of this community to tell the truth about what happened at this school. I've got to prove it in court, so I've come to Huddersfield. I'm now going to knock. I need to find witnesses. I've got addresses for many. I need to knock and talk to them and see who I can get to come to court to help me prove to you, the public. This is about as much as proving in court as proving to you, the British public, that I was the only journalist in the country who told the truth about what happened in this community.
The story you were told. You were told that a vulnerable Syrian child refugee had been bullied and waterboarded by a nasty white boy. You were told it was a racist attack. You were told of the dangers of far-right extremism. You were invited to agree that this kind of intolerance could not be tolerated. Was he vulnerable? Was it a racist attack? Our evidence shows the answers to both these questions was no. Was the Syrian lad waterboarded? Why was this word used? What about this? Was that waterboarding? Take a look at this. It shows a group of non-white children beating up a white girl. It went viral online, but it wasn't touched by the mainstream media. It wasn't made into a global story. Why not? Meanwhile, the usual suspects had lit the fire and were gleefully stoking the flames.
Everybody was exposing the scumbag that did this, who I hope gets severe retribution.
And of course, the politicians. They're always quick to jump on the bandwagon. Theresa May, Sajid Javid, Naz Shah, Nicholas Soames, Winston Churchill's grandson. Such moral outrage. And it's not just the media and the politicians. In today's Twitter and Facebook-driven worlds, where celebrities and groups compete to virtue signal, most of them driven by the warm feeling they get by expressing their moral outrage, or by fear. The fear of what might happen to them if they don't. Everyone who's anyone pumped the Bailey Jamal story. Boxers, Lennox Lewis, Huddersfield Football Club, celebrities from across the globe. Let's have a look at all of the celebrities and blue tick brigade who pumped the Jamal story. And here are some of the people who pumped the story you watched earlier of the white girl getting beaten up. Sadly, whether it's politicians, celebrities or other groups, none of them are wise enough or pause long enough to ask whether they have the whole story, to check the facts, to find the truth. But why let the truth get in the way of such a good story? And this story was just too good a story. Two lads in a playground scrap is not international news. But racist white thug waterboards helpless Syrian refugee, boom! Racism can't be tolerated, beware of the far right. That's their kind of story. We'll hear more about the militant left later, but they clearly weren't going to miss out on this.
Well, representing might be too harsh a word, but I'm here as a concerned citizen.
Mohammed Amin Pandor, a mufti on a mission. He rushed to Almonbury from his mosque in Batley, a town at the far end of the district. In fact, there's 40 mosques closer to this school. But perhaps Mufti Pandor had his own agenda. You see, his little brother, Councillor Shabir Pandor, is the leader of Kirklees Council in Huddersfield, and they were having some pretty bad news days at that time. By the way, Mufti Pandor, he's the same guy who ordered the Islamic mob to come to the school in Batley and demand the sacking of the RE teacher who showed a cartoon of Muhammad in a discussion about free speech.
Look at what we do as a community and you'll understand our stance. So what has happened is totally unacceptable. Yeah? And we have made sure that the school understands that. The teacher has been suspended. The teacher has been suspended.
You may recall the teacher had to flee and he's still in hiding under police protection. Luckily, he hasn't ended up like Samuel Paty, the French teacher who was beheaded for having a similar discussion in a classroom about free speech. You see, free speech is essential for any society wishing to maintain intellectual and social progress. But not all societies are bothered about intellectual and social progress. Should we be silenced by the demands of Mufti Pandor and Sharia law? Should we sacrifice our freedom of speech? Should we sacrifice the free and open exchange of ideas? Should we sacrifice the cultural inheritance of which we are all custodians? But back to the bad news days in Kirklees and the playground incident in 2018. There was also Kirklees councillor Masood Ahmed.
I'm not aware of there's a problem at the school. That's something obviously I need to find out in terms of that if there is a problem at the school, and that is something I will definitely be picking up.
Now, some of you may remember this.
My colleague is going to explain what's going to happen next, right?
Am I being arrested? I am being arrested.
Causing a breach of peace.
I've caused a breach of peace. I'm being arrested.
But the content of what you're
Can we just say
streaming.
The content of what I'm streaming, I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor?
Can you just turn off your live feed?
Can you get me a solicitor?
Turn off your live feed, please.
Yeah?
Do you understand what I've just said?
No, can you explain it again?
Causing a breach of the peace.
What does that mean? What does that mean then?
At the same time as this playground spat between two young lads, 20 Huddersfield men were being jailed across Yorkshire at Leeds Crown Court for what would be the biggest grooming gang Britain has ever seen. Ultimately, 35 almost exclusively Muslim men would be given 380 years